I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. It just didn't feel like I was going to have a very bright future.
Mm-hmm.
So in high school, I decided pretty early on that I wasn't going to go to college. It just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It didn't make sense to pay somebody thousands of dollars to help me try to figure it out. So I'll go out on my own and I'll figure it out.
When you had that turning point though, like what was the, what struggles did you feel like you gave up when things kind of turned for you?
What struggles did I give up in terms of like not having them anymore?
And not having them yet.
Oh man. I think one was I gave up not all of it, but a big piece of the fear of judgment. But that was, I had become accustomed to a certain level of lifestyle, but not even that, a certain level of reputation that I was afraid to lose. I would say listen to the voice that's trying to extend you, not to contract you. So I think all resilience in general is pushing through pain, discomfort, and uncertainty. Mental resilience is pushing through mental pain, mental discomfort, and mental uncertainty. It's the same thing. It's the same. You have to put yourself in places where you don't know if you can hang to a constructive amount.
Question: how can entrepreneurs start building impact today, even if they have like no audience or no capital or little experience?
You're not going to like the answer if you're out there and you're an entrepreneur. It's going to be opposite to what most people are telling you. Do more.
What if the darkest moment of your life was the doorway to everything you were meant to become? From rock bottom to building a global mission rooted in purpose, today's guest turned pain into power and never looked back. This is the journey of Kevin Palmieri. Hey family, this is the Thrive journey. Look, life's too short to just get by, and 2025 is the year to persist. We're here to grow, build, and thrive. This podcast is all about powerful stories, real talk, and practical steps to help you level up in every area of your life. Now, if that sounds like something you need, don't just watch, be a part of the journey. Let us know you're here. Do us a favor. If you're listening on the podcast platform, download the episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. And as we always say, let's make thriving our new norm.
Yeah. Beat up, bullied, and dunked on. Beat up.
What if the moment you wanted to end your life was actually the beginning of your greatest purpose? On today's episode of the Thrive Journey, we're sitting down with Kevin Palmieri. He's the co-founder of Next Level University, a global top 100 self-improvement podcast with over 2,000 episodes and millions of listeners worldwide. And so after hitting rock bottom and nearly ending it all, Kevin made some radical choices, like to live with purpose, build with heart, and hustle without BS, right? So now he's a 7-figure entrepreneur and transformational speaker. He's here to share how pain, purpose, and consistency can change everything. So this one's for every dreamer, striver, and soul that's searching for your next level. So let's go and let's get into it with Kevin. Kevin, nice to have you here, man.
Michael, I appreciate you having me. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Hopefully I can live up to a percentage of it. That's the goal.
You will. And I know we talked about your partner, Alan Lazarus, and he was on. And if he's a preamble to the next stage, I think it's going to be a great conversation.
I hope so. I look forward to it very much.
Yeah. So before we get into it, I always like to know what's on your mind or your heart that you've been kind of thinking about, what's been percolating in your thoughts that you want to share with the world.
Yeah, I feel like if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a dream chaser, if you are a business owner, your mental health should probably be as much, if not more of a focus than anything else.
Yeah.
It has just been a heavy season of growth. And with growth comes feedback, and with feedback comes shame and triggers and fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So I'm in this deep understanding that entrepreneurship it's great and there's so much opportunity, but it's going to do stuff to you that you might not be prepared for yet.
Yeah, there's a huge level of growth, uncomfortability, and some soul checking and searching in that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before we actually get to where you are now, I want to kind of go back to kind of like your origin story, right? You talked about how you found bottom, but that rock bottom had a basement, and I found that very interesting because many people, and I'll put myself in there, found a rock bottom, right? And sometimes that rock bottom has a basement, so you go even lower. Can you talk about that?
Of course. Yeah. So just for context, was raised by my mom and my grandmother, didn't know my dad, didn't meet my dad with the understanding that he was my dad until I was 27.
Mm.
So grew up lower middle class, did not have a lot of money. It didn't seem like I had a lot of options. I didn't have a lot of guidance. I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. It just didn't feel like I was going to have a very bright future.
Mm-hmm.
So in high school, I decided pretty early on that I wasn't going to go to college. It just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It didn't make sense to pay somebody thousands of dollars to help me try to figure it out. So I'll go out on my own and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I got a job at the local gas station. That was my first big boy job I ever had. And then from there, Michael, I just went on a journey of just job hopping. So gas station attendant, I was a personal trainer, truck driver, forklift operator, cleaned bathrooms and floors at a hospital overnight. I did tiling, I did construction, I did HVAC, I did a bunch of stuff.
You're a hustler.
I was hustling. And I think a lot of it was because I just never thought I was going to be successful. So I was always looking for the next thing that might make me more successful. Eventually, I got a job in an industry called weatherization. All that means is you go into buildings and it's your job to make them more energy efficient. So you're working in attics, windows, doors, that type of stuff.
Okay.
I went from making $15 an hour as a construction laborer to $50 an hour on my first job with this company. In my mind, Michael, I made it. Here we go.
You probably I hit it.
That was it. It was like, oh my goodness. All of the suffering and all of the sacrifice and all of the sleepless nights and limiting beliefs have led me to this.
Mm-hmm.
This is the new chapter. I'm going to be successful now. So fast forward a couple of years. I still have this job. I have a girlfriend who's a model. I have a brand new apartment. I'm living with her. Getting ready to compete in a bodybuilding show. So I'm quite literally in the best shape I will ever be. Mm-hmm. And I went on to win my class for that bodybuilding show. Nice car, great friends, all the stuff you could ever want. Mm-hmm. One day, she sits me down after my bodybuilding show, and she says, I'm leaving.
Oh.
You're depressed, you're anxious, you aren't nearly as supportive of my goals and dreams as I need someone to be, and I'm going to go do my thing. I'm going to go chase my dreams. And she was right. She was right with saying all that.
Yeah.
The thing that really, for me, was rock bottom was she said, I'm telling you this not because I want to hurt you, but because I want you to know I was going to leave you a month ago, but I thought you might kill yourself.
Oh, wow.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, how did we get here?
Yeah.
How did we get here? I felt like I was fine.
Yeah.
So that was my initial rock bottom. Then work got slow. I had an eating disorder from my bodybuilding show. So now I'm kind of like broke again. And my hormones are all messed up and I have an eating disorder. It's like, what is happening here? How did we get even further? How do we continue to go down? I fell into the trap that I think a lot of people fall into. I said, well, I just got to go make a boatload of money and then all these problems will just dissolve. Mm-hmm. So the next year I got a promotion at my job. I proceeded to spend the next 10 months living on the road because all of our contracts were in other states. Get to the end of the year, and I remember I opened up my final pay stub of the year, and I made $100,000 at 26 with no college degree. And this was 2017. $100,000 went a lot further in
Right,
2017 than it does today. Like, that was actually good. That was really good money back then.
Today won't go too far.
Yeah, it doesn't go as far today, unfortunately. But I remember thinking to myself after I opened up my pay stub, I don't feel any different internally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still insecure. I'm still self-conscious. I'm still depressed. I'm still anxious. I feel like I've lived most of my life unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of unconscious is hyperconscious. So I did what any young man would do. I started a podcast called the Hyperconscious Podcast. That was the next logical step. It made sense.
I saw that, yeah.
So I did that, fell in love with podcasting as I started to loathe my job.
Mm.
The reason I liked my job is because I liked the money. I did not like what I was doing. I didn't like traveling. I wasn't passionate about it. I didn't find purpose in it.
Yeah.
So I start calling out of work. I start leaving the job sites early, showing up late. Every time I would be packing my bag to leave for the week, I would be depressed and anxious and homesick. And it kept getting worse. Rock bottom basement moment. I woke up in a hotel room, getting ready for work one morning. Alarm clock went off. I sat up, slid to the edge of the bed. And the best way to explain it, Michael, is there's 10 televisions on in my head at the same time.
Yeah.
And every single one is on a different station.
Mm-hmm.
You're stuck here forever. You got lucky. Remember, things were trending down, and then you got this opportunity. Do not mess this up. Do not mess this up.
Yeah.
If you ever left, what would your friends say? You make more money than any of your friends. A lot of significance there. What would your family say? You make more money than anybody in your family, and your family's super proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you really think this podcast thing is going to pan out? That's where we're going to go. And it was in that moment where I thought to myself, well, if I was just to take my life, I would take all of my problems with me. And that was the rock bottom basement. There is really nowhere lower to go from there.
Yeah.
Luckily, I reached out to Alan, and Alan gave me some really good advice and some support and some perspective. And I saw the light at the end of the tunnel at the job. I stayed there for, 2 or 3 more months. And then I ended up leaving. And then him and I partnered up, and we've been doing this full time since 2018.
That's where you guys connected, Next Level You and all that came up.
Yep.
But before that, what was the thing that, because there are many people that go through that basement of rock bottom, right? Where
Yes.
they feel like they have nothing to live for, but the 10 TVs on in the head and all that different stations, and there's no clarity there, right? You had your boy, Alan, who reached out to you, or you reached out to him and he was there for you. What would you say to somebody that's in that space right now that's listening and they won't reach out to somebody because not everybody does that?
This is always the part I have a lot of trouble with, because the analogy I always use is you have to build the umbrella long before the storm.
Mm.
It's really hard to be in the storm and then imagine building an umbrella. So I would give 2 pieces. One piece I would give is, if right now life is going great, be vulnerable with the people around you, because you never know if they're going to need you, and you never know if you're going to need them.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. The second one is, if you haven't built the umbrellas yet and you're in that moment, who is out there that you feel like might just listen?
Yeah.
Who is out there that you feel won't judge you? Maybe they don't have advice necessarily, but maybe they are a shoulder that you can lean on momentarily to get your bearings and to get new perspective. I think that's a piece of it. And I think the other piece of it is, so much of what I was dealing with in that moment was it was emotions. A lot of it wasn't logical.
Yeah.
If I would have maybe tried to sit on it and think about it and sleep on it for a day, I'm sure a lot of those feelings might have subsided.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, unfortunately, I think we get to a place where it seems like it's real and it seems like there's no other answers. All of that, and this is always something I say because this changed my perspective on that forever. We interviewed somebody one time named Kevin Hines. Mm-hmm. Kevin is one of the rare people who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Perspective. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge with the intention of taking his life. He said, the second my foot left the railing, I regretted it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet unfortunately, that's what many people feel, but most people aren't able to tell us that.
Mm-hmm.
I always share that with the fact that this person felt that way. He did the thing that he thought he was needing to do and he regretted it. I feel like that probably would have been the same for me. I would have regretted it too, right?
Yeah.
I would have regretted it, and I think most people do. So I share that as perspective, as I don't necessarily have a great answer, but I do think perspective is helpful.
Yeah, perspective does initiates change, and everything really. I just can't imagine. Wow, like jumping off a bridge, that moment regretting it, and then actually being able to tell the story afterwards. You know,
Yeah. It
like
was one
what
of
was
the most profound things I've ever heard in my entire life.
I can't imagine. I've been across the bridge, and it's huge. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I'm good with driving on it, and that's
understandable.
about
Same.
it. When you had that turning point, though, like what was the um what struggles did you feel like you gave up when things kind of turned for you
What struggles did I give up in terms of like not having them anymore?
and not having them? Yeah.
Oh man. I think one was I gave up not all of it, but a big piece of the fear of judgment.
Mm,
That was I had become accustomed to a certain level of lifestyle, but not even that,
mhm.
a certain level of reputation that I was afraid to lose. So I had to let go of that almost immediately.
Yeah.
That was one. I would say another one was I had to be I had to let go of not setting and keeping boundaries.
Mhm.
Because when you become an entrepreneur, yes, you have all the time in the world, but all of that time needs to be dedicated towards you doing something constructive in the business,
Right,
or you're
right,
going to end up broke.
right.
And then I tried my best to let go of as much ego as I could.
Mhm.
Alan has been mentoring me since we started working together. So it was very important for me to say, I think you know better in this. Oh, you think I should start tracking habits? Okay, I don't want to. It sounds terrible, but I feel like you probably know better. So I had to put on the student hat and I had to let go of you have to look good. You have to pretend you're better than you are. You have to allow your ego to keep you safe. I had to let go of so much of that. And it was really, really, really hard because my core wounding is not good enough, not smart enough.
Mhm.
So it was really important for me to lean into that. So yeah, that was probably the biggest one, is just let yourself be vulnerable to the fact that you need to be coachable if you're going to succeed here. Let go of all of the ego around that.
How does one, and this is a good point, that a lot of people operate from the I'm not good enough, or I'm not loved enough, or whatever that thing may be for them that drives them. Um, how do you first identify, acknowledge that, and then how does someone begin to not operate from that space, or will somebody always operate from that space?
I think we have a home, but I think you can leave home for longer. So
Hmm.
I don't know that you always will operate from it. I think it's a tendency that it's easy to fall back into.
Hmm.
I would say on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you believe in your own unique capability to build something in the external world?
Hmm.
Like, do you believe that you can build a business?
Hmm.
Do you believe that you can lose X amount of pounds in X amount of time? All you were saying is, I feel I'm a level 5 competent, and that's like good enough. I feel I'm level 5 good enough to accomplish that goal.
Hmm.
That's usually where we start from. What is very helpful is, let's say you come up with a number, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, I feel level 4 confident that I can accomplish this goal. Awesome. Why don't we lower the goal so you feel level 10 confident you can do it?
Hmm.
Then when you do it, we can set another goal that now it'll be a bigger goal, but you'll be able to set something bigger and feel level 10 confident. Rinse and repeat that.
Hmm.
So essentially, if you want to build belief, you state you're going to do something. You prove to yourself that you're capable of doing it. And then this is a big one that a lot of people miss. You self-assign the fact that you said you were going to do it, you did it, and now it's done.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you resonate with, maybe you're really good at saying you're going to do it. Maybe you're struggling with actually proving it and self-assigning. That's hurting your self-belief day on day on day on day. If you are really good at proving it, but you never state you're going to do it, you probably feel like you're getting lucky. And then if you never self-assign, you're not giving yourself the good vibes, the good feelings, the good emotions that you said you were going to do it. You proved to yourself that you're going to do it. You need to take ownership for the greatness that you just accomplished. So usually we're missing out on at least one of those if we feel like we don't believe in ourselves.
Yeah. And so what I was hearing you're saying that is it's almost like, I mean, use your term, it's like a next level confidence builder when you actually do those things, but you need to do those things and be integrous or have integrity with your word.
Yeah. And I think most people are just told to set goals that don't serve them. Like, if you came to me and you said, hey man, I want to be a more successful podcaster. It's like, cool. I think you should do 7 episodes a week. You have a life outside of this. You have other things you're doing. You have other responsibilities. If you set that goal and you couldn't accomplish it, you would lose belief in yourself. That's not a you thing. That's a goal problem.
That's a goal problem.
Yeah, that's a goal problem.
Your limits too, right? Even that you're not supposed to limit yourself, but there are limits to certain things.
I think if we have to be accurate with our limits.
Yeah.
If one of my goals is to beat Michael Phelps in swimming, I'm not going to. It's not. Right. I'm 5'4". That man's there's no way.
11.
No way. Yeah. There's no way.
Yeah.
But maybe a goal for me that's not constructive is I'm going to tread water for 13 seconds. Like that might not build belief. So I just think it's the Goldilocks thing. Some goals are too big and they're going to break our self-belief. Some goals are just too small and they're not going to build it, but we have to find what the right amount for you is based on what your self-belief is.
Is that a lot of testing oneself, or is that starting from like, I need to find out who I am in a certain space, or I just basically need to find out who I am before I kind of challenge myself in whatever area?
I think it's a test and then a measure.
Okay.
So if let's throw the dart at the board, see where it lands, and then see what happens. You can start there. I would rather somebody undershoot on a goal than overshoot.
Yeah.
Depending on their self-belief. Again, you interviewed Alan. Alan has the most self-belief out of any human I've ever met. He needs to lose. He just needs to go lose because it doesn't affect his self-belief almost at all. If anything, it makes him believe in himself more.
Yeah.
That prescription for me, Michael, is detrimental.
Yeah.
Very detrimental.
Well, when I had Alan on, first of all, I mean, even though we're on camera, like certain people like yourself exude a certain air of confidence about who they are. And dude, he stands tall. I don't know how tall he is, but he stands taller than that, because of the level of confidence that he lives in, really. And so you're saying that there are some people that can challenge themselves beyond who they are, or some people just need to just kind of find out where they are first and then kind of set goals that match that.
The hardest part is this is the weird thing. It's usually people like Alan giving advice to people like me. That I remember in the beginning, he'd just be like, well, Kev, just believe in yourself more. Thanks, man. I appreciate that so much. Tell me how.
Right.
There's something weird about that. Like a lot of the people that are giving advice to the vast majority of people don't understand how the vast majority of people think. It's this weird paradox of many of us have to have a super high level of self-belief to accomplish what we want. But then we're talking to a group of people who statistically have much lower self-belief. I don't know how you help someone if you don't understand where they kind of are. It's very hard to do that.
Yeah. I find that when I hear it sometimes, I'm like, even for me, I'll just put myself in it. I'll even challenge myself to like things that are just beyond me, but I just feel like I have it within me to just challenge myself that way. But if I don't necessarily reach it, I don't get down on myself now. I think it's age and time. But I just kind of pivot and say, you know what, let's do it this way, or let's do, change
Mm-mm-mm.
strategy. Because I don't like to give up,
Yeah.
you know? And you talk about heart driven but no BS. And I think that's probably what I am to myself. What does that mean to you, and how do you embody that in your work?
Heart driven to me means just giving you the truth because I care and because I love you.
Hmm.
And the no BS part is I'm not going to lie about the good parts or the bad parts.
Yeah.
The heart driven is, I mean, everything we do is with the intention of helping someone.
Right.
All right. Does it always feel that way? Probably not. No. But the no BS is I've been lied to enough by mentors and coaches and influencers and entrepreneurs. I've seen behind the curtains on some of the most successful people in the world, and many of them are not who I aspire to be.
Mhm.
I got to keep it real, and I want to be a real, authentic version of myself. And that, so yeah, that's what it means to us. I saw something the other day that was just encompassing, encapsulating of what I've been thinking a lot recently. They said most self-improvement, most personal development is like a Snuggie.
A
And it
Snuggie?
was like, yeah, like a Snuggie.
Okay.
It feels good. It feels warm. It keeps you safe,
Mhm.
but it's never going to help you grow.
Mhm.
A Snuggie, if you're cold, you can put on a Snuggie. Awesome.
That's so funny. Okay.
Or you can learn how to build a fire. Which one of those
Mm.
sucks worse? Building a fire. In the
Mhm.
cold, you got to go source the material and you got to figure it out. You're going to get cold, you're going to get wet. I think for a lot of us, personal development has become how to feel good
Mm.
momentarily, as opposed to how to grow into somebody who's more capable of dealing with the feelings that aren't always good. I think those are two very different approaches. So we take the second one. We are built on the fundamentals, extremely unsexy, but I think it works. And the vast majority of the time, after listening to us, you probably will not feel better, but I do believe you will have the opportunity to get better.
Here on the Thrival Journey, we talk a lot about not just surviving, but thriving. And a big part of that for me has been understanding my health on a deeper level. That's why I partnered with Live Good and brought it under my company, Orion's Health. Not just because I believe in the products, but because I've seen what they can do firsthand. I've walked through some hard health chapters in my life, including cancer and a kidney transplant. And I know what it feels like when your body's working against you. That's why we're offering 2 free tools that help me and can help you too. First, go to myfreehealthreport.com/Orion's Health. Take our quick health questionnaire and get a personalized report created by Dr. Ryan Goodkin, Live Good's Director of Product Development. It's clear, actionable, and totally free. Second, visit myfreedetox.com and get a free chlorophyll and zeolite detox bottle with your first product order. It's a gentle, natural way to clear out toxins and start fresh, something I personally use and stand behind. This isn't just a sponsorship, it's part of my mission through Orion's Health to help people thrive in body, mind, and spirit. Of course, always consult your physician before starting any new supplement or health regimen. Your body is unique, and your healthcare provider should always be part of the conversation. The links are in the show notes. Now tap in and take your next step toward thriving. There's a lot to be said about the pain that you go through. It feels physical, but it's not necessarily physical. But it's something to be said about the growth that we go through on a journey to whatever we're aspiring to be. What I realize is that the person today that I am, and I'm pretty sure yourself and anybody who's listening or watching, that the person that we are today, that we aspire to be, was different than the person 10 days ago, 10 years ago. And when I look back and I'm like, there was some growth and there was some pain and there was some circumstances that I had to get through in order to be the person I am today. And when I'm here at this moment, I'm not satisfied, right? And I have to grow in order to be the next level of the person that I'm, creating myself to be. Should it ever stop?
I think that is a deeply personal question. Should it ever stop? I don't know if you can really be fulfilled if you're not growing.
Yeah.
I always use like the Paris Hiltons of the world. Nothing against Paris Hilton, but a lot of people would see somebody like that who has access to infinite money, infinite opportunities. That person is most likely not fulfilled.
Mm.
Maybe now, if they experienced, okay, all of this pleasure and all of this opportunity didn't make me feel good. Why? Okay, let me go grow and contribute to something greater than myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it always has to be the same size of aspiration, but I think the direction is important. Yeah. Am I always going to want exactly what I want today? Probably not. Maybe I'll want more, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the direction of growth, if growth is an ingredient that creates fulfillment, I think when you lose growth, you probably also lose fulfillment, I would say. But it doesn't have to be in the same dose forever.
Right.
I think it can change depending on you.
I agree. Now, this is who you are today. We talked about who you were before. Like in that space, what do you feel transpired in your growth, and what are the things that you could call out to say, these are the things that helped me grow to where I am today?
Oh, man. Some of the hardest times have been the greatest facilitators of growth. Because I think the necessity was great enough for me to work through the discomfort that I was avoiding for most of my life. So as an example, when I learned the most about money, I was the brokest. If I learned about money before then, Michael,
That's good.
I might not have been broke.
That's good.
So when I learned the most about leadership is when I felt the worst about being a leader. I think oftentimes the feelings that we have are the suggestion of the direction we should grow in, but it's up to you to answer the call. But that's the hardest thing ever. You already feel like you're digging a hole. It's like, I don't want to fill this hole in and then build on top of it. I think that's kind of what we have to do. So anytime there's been a shame, anytime there's been an insecurity, or anytime there's been a glaring weakness, that has been a highlight of this is what you need to work on. That might be the biggest lesson I have. That's one. The other thing is, I don't know if I will ever look back and not think I sucked.
Yeah.
So, and it's weird. It's okay. The other night I was in my feels. And
okay.
When I'm in my feels, Michael, I go watch old content. That's like my go-to for whatever reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why I do it, but I was watching episode 1000. You got to imagine, I've done 1,000 episodes. I got to be pretty good at podcasting. I couldn't even watch the whole episode. It was terrible.
Hey, you know what? I agree with you.
Now, is it terrible compared to the average person, or is it terrible compared to what I am now capable of? Yeah. Probably the second. I mean, I think we were good 1,000 episodes in, but not 2,000 episodes good. This quote changed my life, and I say it as often as people will listen. From day to day, progress is invisible, ceases to exist. From year to year, progress, both positive or negative, impossible to miss. That. And I just am blessed and privileged enough to have such a feedback loop of every day we do an episode. And I did an episode yesterday and I did one today, I'm no better. I might be worse depending on how much sleep I got.
Yeah, right.
Compared to last year, though, it's night and day. So just being able to see the incremental improvement over time has helped me build so much belief, because unless you have checkpoints, it's really hard to feel growth. Like, is $100 expensive compared to what?
Right.
What's the con? I mean, no, not if it's a car, but yes, if it's, a glass. So yeah, I think the perspective piece is super big. So I would say those are all of those. And then I think I had this really challenging phase, and I always have this phase, it's just different, where I get a new insecurity that pops up. So like we talked about in the beginning, my insecurity was I am interviewing millionaires, best-selling authors, professional athletes, professional rappers, billionaires. I do not feel good enough, and everybody knows I'm an imposter. That was like the vast majority of the time. Then it was Alan's way smarter than me, and he's going to outgrow me. Then it was he's leading the company even though I started it. And it's always been, I don't know if insecurities are ever going to go away. I think I'll just be insecure at a different level. And it'll be faster to face it. So I've kind of sort of come to terms with, I don't know if imposter syndrome is ever going to go away. I don't know if limiting beliefs ever fully go away. I think you make friends with them. And then when this friend says this thing, you say this thing back, and then that friend goes and sits in the corner for a while. I think that's what I've experienced so far, at least.
No, I'm with you with that. First of all, it cracks me up when, okay, you are like 2,000 and something episodes in, big audience, everything. Where, I mean, by the time this airs, it'll be, I don't know, maybe 50, maybe. And I go back and I look at one of the persons I had on was wanting to get some, some of the assets or whatever. They wanted the podcast itself to, do some marketing for their stuff. And I'm like, sure. And when I looked back at it, when they put it up on the Instagram, I was like, oh my God, this is just absolutely terrible. The lighting was dark. I mean, greasy skin. Like, it was just, oh my God, it was just absolutely terrible. And I know this time, as we grow, you do better. You learn more. And I had the imposter syndrome as well. And I didn't need to know like who was a millionaire and who wasn't. You know what I mean? I didn't need to know, because I would have this guttural feeling in my stomach, right? Like, oh God, and it would come across that way as well. And I had to find myself within the space. And once I did that, because I know myself well enough, I'm old enough to know myself well, things shifted, and I had allowed my mindset to shift. And you talk about your mindset and building mental resilience. How does one do that when they're in a space where they're doubting themselves and they're trying to find themselves in whatever area they're in?
I would say listen to the voice that's trying to extend you, not to contract you. So I think all resilience in general is pushing through pain, discomfort, and uncertainty. Mental resilience is pushing through mental pain, mental discomfort, and mental uncertainty. It's the same thing. It's the same. You have to put yourself in places where you don't know if you can hang to a constructive amount. You have to ignore the first voice that says you can't do this and say, well, let me try it for a minute and see what happens. That's really all it is. But I think it's a huge piece of it that just goes under the radar is personal development makes you capable of carrying a heavier weight, but making it look lighter. That's, I think, the main reason I'm capable of handling pressure with somewhat grace, I won't say it's full grace, but somewhat grace, is because I've done so much work on shoring up the ship. So when the waves get rough, which they will, the ship just doesn't bounce as much as it used to.
Oh,
And
you
I
said the
think
ship. Okay, I thought you said churn up the shit. But okay.
no, well, same thing, right? Same, yeah. The shit, whatever. I've tried to shore it up so when the storm comes, it doesn't rock the boat as much. And I think
Yeah.
that's how you build mental resilience is you put yourself in a little bit over your head,
Mhm.
and then you do all the ancillary things. You exercise when you don't want to.
Mhm.
You meditate when it's hard.
Mhm.
You set boundaries when you don't want to. You have the conversations with your partner when you don't want to. You look at the stuff that you don't necessarily want to look at. And then the next day you wake up and you're still here and you get to do it all over again. And when you do that for a year, you're a drastically different human. So I think it's all of those things. It's you practice personal development. That's if you want to build mental, physical, emotional resilience, you practice personal development, because all personal development is you looking at the bright spots, you looking at the dark spots, you improving those things, getting feedback from yourself, the proverbial mirror, and then saying, all right, cool, let me see what I can do about that. That's all personal development really is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for myself, I've been on a journey, years of personal development. I don't think we ever stop, and we shouldn't stop. I think when it comes to developing yourself as a human being. But what I love what you said is that I'm probably gonna ask you to say it again. But personal development is when the load is heavy, carrying
Oh
it like it
man.
feels like it's light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't, certain things come out and people say like, hey, what was that? Say it again. It's gone, Michael. It is, I couldn't even tell you what we're talking about anymore.
I felt like it was. I'll bring us in. I felt like it was just it just kind of flowed from you, and I was like, dang. But the great thing is, I get to listen back, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get to hear it and write my notes. I try to write notes when I hear things from people, and be present at the same time. So I'm working on that. But
It's all good. It's all, well, don't wait
it's-
too long to listen back, because it'll be terrible if you do. If you wait too long, you won't be able to listen through.
No, I'm not. No, you know what we do is we after we finish the episode or finish the show, myself and the producer, we go through them and we get to it right away, because we don't want to lose what's there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we get personal development out of each and every podcast that we listen to, so it's pretty good.
Mm.
And I wanted to talk to you about you talked about Alan and the confidence that you guys share and have. How do you maintain confidence without being arrogant or disconnected even?
You go to the gym and lift heavy weight. That's
Yeah.
that's the number one way to do it for me, at least. I think it's two things. We have a client one time. He's a TEDx speaker. He's a leadership coach, just a very down to earth, intelligent, good human. And he said to me one time, he said, Kev, you got to know the press is never right. You're never as good as they say. You're never as bad as they say. You're always somewhere in between. It's like, ooh, okay. Is that going to be like my mentor lesson that I got from you? This is awesome. Okay. So I always think about that.
Yeah.
That's a piece of it. The other piece of it is the way we got here was through humility, work ethic, grit, consistency, and perseverance. When you stop doing what got you to the dance, you do not get to dance anymore. If we lose sight of that, we will lose all of this. That is Alan and I talk about that all the time. All the time. I mean, that is like an everyday conversation. So it is something that's really on top of our minds. I think I probably balance Alan out, because Alan is not arrogant. I think the typical sense of arrogance that a lot of people think is that person talks about stuff. They don't walk the walk. Alan's walk is already so high. So it's like if anybody thinks he's arrogant, it's most likely because he's not communicating properly. I do believe he's probably capable of almost anything he says.
Yeah.
Because he knows. So it's not like he's not saying it from a place of arrogance. I just think it's at times a lack of communication. I've always tried to be extremely humble, because honestly, I think that's what's gotten me in so many rooms is like, hey, I'm not the best. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the smartest, but like I'll work really hard and I'll support you and I'll be a really good number 2 and I'll know my place and all that. So I think we balance each other out really, really, really well, where he'll shoot for the moon and miss. I'll remind him that that's fine for him, but if we miss with the team, we're all going to die, and this is not going to work anymore. So we balance each other out really well. And I think at the end of the day, we have a really, really vulnerable relationship where we talk about what's real.
Yeah.
Sometimes like the stuff that you don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that helps keep you humble because you're always up against the weight of the mission. I mean, we're never going to actually accomplish what we want, right? It's never going to get an award that says, hey, you're the most successful personal development company on the planet. Like that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So the journey of that will, in theory, always be humbling as long as we keep our eyes on that. Yeah.
And that brings me to a point where, do you believe confidence comes before clarity? You guys have, it just seems like the where you guys are going and what you've created, there's a lot of clarity there.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Do I think confidence comes before clarity?
Or vice versa?
No, I think clarity. Yeah, no, I think it depends on the person. I think either order. So if let's say you just start out naturally somewhat confident, you're probably going to go do stuff that's misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to create clarity, and then that'll double down the confidence. If you're somebody who is afraid to take action, you'll probably need a little bit of extra clarity. When you do the thing, you'll probably get better results, and then that will re-clarify, rinse and repeat. So I think it all depends on where your self-belief is, where your self-worth is. That's why success is so hard, because it is a very unique equation based on your attributes. Like the equation is so hard because none of the numbers are the same for any of us.
Yeah.
That's why it's so challenging. I know for me, I needed clarity first. Then that helped me build confidence. Alan was confident. He needed clarity. Mm-hmm. So he would take action. It would go horribly wrong. Boom, more clear. I would research and prep. Like the first speech I ever gave, I did so many test runs of it that I knew, okay, 75% of the way through, I should be at 15 minutes and 30 seconds, and I should be on this point. Alan finished his speech in the bathroom stall on the day we were doing it. Wow. I did really well. He didn't do very well. He was like, I should probably prep a little bit more. I was like, I'm the man. This is awesome. I bombed the next speech because I got arrogant. He prepped more. So it's always a pendulum swinging back and forth. I think the ultimate goal is just to slow the swings down so they don't go as far each time. Yeah. Yeah.
A balance of the both. I think I'm listening to you and I'm putting myself in your shoes and I'm still trying to figure I know I need some clarity on my side. I think I have more confidence than I do have clarity. And I ask that question because, for me, it's like, what do I need most, to help me forge forward with my business and with what I'm creating for myself. And so that's why I wanted to know your point or your view on what that was.
What do you look at more, your strengths or your weaknesses?
Man, I think I look at probably my weaknesses when I don't achieve a certain thing. Like if I'm trying to look at real life situations here. I can't even think of anything right now. I tend to go more to my weaknesses than I do to my strengths. And then I'll mull it over and be like, well, let me get stronger in the area of whatever it is. And then I'll go for that and then make that strength, try to make that strength work for me.
Yeah.
Or that weakness turn into a strength to work and have that work for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of,
what usually works is sitting down and writing out a list of your core values, your core beliefs, and your core aspirations. So core values, what do you value about yourself, about the world, about people? Like, what are you attracted to? Not relationally or sexually, but like what you meet someone and they're super humble and you're like, I want to be around that person more. Well, I'm guessing humility is probably one of your core values. Core beliefs, what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about the world? Like, what do you believe the human experience should be? And then core aspirations. What in the hell do you want to accomplish?
Yeah.
Oftentimes what you find is your core values, your core beliefs are in conflict with your core aspiration. And a lot of people get stuck in that zone of, just a quick story. I was working with a podcaster one time and I said, what do you want? I'm like, what's the point of this? He's like, I want to be like you guys, but way more successful. Like, cool.
Okay.
Love it. Love that for you. I don't know what it's going to take to be beyond where we are because I can only tell you what we've done. But internally, I'm already thinking, Michael, no, you don't. No, you don't. You want what we have. You do not want what we've done. So let me run a test on you without you knowing I'm running a test.
That makes sense.
I said, all right, man. On a scale of 0 to 10, how important is it for you to be able to get your kids off the bus every day? And he smiled. 10 out of 10, man. Nice. I know. On a scale of 0 to 10, how important is it for you to be at their recitals, parent-teacher conferences, all that stuff? 10 out of 10. You want to be home for dinner every night? Yeah, 10 out of 10. I said, brother, with all the love in the world, this ain't it. This ain't it. What happens is we set a goal based on what the result of the goal will be, not the process of accomplishing the goal.
Right.
The process of accomplishing the goal is like 99% of it. And then one day you get it, but it doesn't really work like that. You still have to sustain it.
Yeah.
So that's always something that it's been super helpful for me, and it's been helpful for a lot of clients, because your core aspirations, you're not really factoring in how that's going to affect your lifestyle. You're only factoring in how that's going to affect the highlights for the most part. So that would be, I don't know, do that and see if anything comes of it. Hopefully something will.
Yeah, making a list and actually seeing it, not only having it inside, but seeing it and then maybe internalizing that.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, I could see that. All right. See, that's why I'm a podcaster. And talking about that, just trying to connect that with what's next is your purpose. What is, like, if you have to state what your purpose is, or I know we have multiple purposes, but your overall purpose, what is your overall purpose?
To be the type of person I needed at my lowest point. That is why I show up the way I show up. My hair's popping through my hat. I don't care. Like, this is how the version that the person that Kev needed, this is how he would show up. He would have this energy. He would be proud to be here. He'd be appreciative. He'd be grateful. Like, that is, but I think where a lot of us get stuck is, I've had so many people say, how do you find your purpose? I think you know. I do. I think if you've had something deeply meaningful happen to you, you most likely want to help a certain person avoid a certain pain in a certain way. Where things get wonky is when somebody says, well, what's the vehicle? Like, how am I going to do it? My purpose is not to be a podcaster. My purpose is to use my voice and my words to help people raise awareness to avoid the pains that I could.
Yeah.
Podcasting is just a vehicle for that. Speaking is just a vehicle. I think that's where a lot of us get stuck, is because the vehicle doesn't seem realistic, or the vehicle doesn't seem sustainable, or whatever it is. So yeah, I think for a lot of us, it's like, there's a bunch of questions. What would I find you talking about on a Friday night if you were like the most passionate? What pisses you off the most? What makes you the saddest? What makes you the happiest? What have a bunch of people told you that you're really, really good at without any of your solicitation? There's a lot of ways to talk about that, but I think finding your purpose is one piece, and I think attaching your purpose to a vehicle might be maybe even more important than finding it in the first place.
That is a distinction. It's connecting your purpose to a vehicle that can move that thing forward. I've never looked at it that way, but I think it's a really good point for people to look at. Like, after you find your purpose, or you know what that is, it's like, how do you get that purpose to live within the world sustainably,
right? We all want to do it sustainably. That's why it's like, I used to be the guy, I've said some dumb stuff. I used to be the guy who said like, yeah, if you chase your passion or if you chase your purpose, it'll happen. I don't know. There's got to be some strategy in there. You know, we got to have some strategy. You know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Nah, I don't think so. I don't. That's overrated. So, it's easy to say like, yeah, when you're living in your purpose, everything comes easy. It's like, I think that's oversimplified. I think like even the quotes that I've said today, like they're oversimplified. They're not going to work in every situation. They'll work in very select specific ones.
How do you stay connected to your purpose?
That is a wonderful question, because I think as you're building a business, it's easy to forget the purpose of the business. For me, I try to think of how much pain I was in when we started. I always try to connect to like, yes, we have payroll and yes, we have financial goals and we have things we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, if we ever lose sight of why this started in the first place, this is all for nothing if we do. And I know that's drastic, but like, we started this to help people. That is one thing. The other thing that I'm always thinking about is I want to try to be as accessible as I can be. I told Alan this the other day. Okay, this is a story that will connect. Alan is a client he's been working with for a long time. Member of our community, listens to our podcast every day, just a humble man. Huge fan of humble men. Like, I love working with humble men. You're a super humble man. I could talk to you all day. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I want to hop on a call with you to help you with your podcast. And when I told Alan I was going to do that, he's like, dude, honestly, like there's no budget. He's already super overwhelmed. And I said, I don't want anything. I just want to talk to him. I just want to add value. I don't ever want to not have the opportunity to do that, because that's why I started this in the first place. I started this in the first place so I could message someone who couldn't get anybody else to answer them and say like, yeah, let's hop on a 30-minute call, whatever. It was 30 minutes. Am I going to get that 30 minutes back? No, but am I going to get fulfillment in that 30 minutes? Of course. Of course. So I try to never lose sight of the human aspect of this. It's very easy to focus on scaling and say that's a waste of your time. A waste of your time is not always equating how much fulfillment you'll get from it. So I'm always trying to work on that equation. But again, easier said than done when you have financial goals and payroll and expenses and all that. But that's probably the best answer I could give.
Yeah. I think I'm not even going to go there. Never mind. But what you said is very, very real, first and foremost. But I think for me, it's also like sometimes I need to take a moment and just to stay, like, restate who I am for myself, so that because life can be, this is a word, but bombardastic. It bombards you with a lot of things, right? I made that word up. And sometimes it just takes just a moment just to kind of just separate from all the stuff and just to sit and be with, yourself, and just to remember, who I am in the day and who I am for myself and for other people.
Yeah.
That's what I have to do. Just keep steady.
I feel you, man. I feel you. It's hard because you have one really, really, really big goal, which is like the purpose. And then you have a bunch of seasonal goals that make up the big goal.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard, is like, well, we have to hit X amount of revenue this quarter. Like, that's the goal this quarter, but it has to be done through the lens of the massive purpose goal.
Right.
So, but I think your answer is spot on. You have to zoom out.
Yeah.
Zoom out of this quarter to the goal. Zoom out of the goal into the purpose. And then if you do that enough, but yeah, that's a tough one. That is a philosophical question for sure.
It is. It is. Last question. How can entrepreneurs start building impact today, even if they have like no audience or no capital or little experience?
You're not going to like the answer if you're out there and you're an entrepreneur. It's going to be opposite to what most people are telling you. Do more free stuff. That.
Mm,
I still do free stuff. I will probably always do free stuff. It is one of the best ways to directly impact people.
mhm,
Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, if I can get on a stage in front of 5,000 people, I can impact 5,000 people. Yeah, getting on a stage like that takes time, though. In the beginning, I think we drastically underestimate. If you were to do a free webinar that had no strings attached and 15 people came, 15 people is a lot of people. It just doesn't feel like it when you compare to social media land with people with millions of followers. So I would say focus way less on scale and focus way more on impact. I think that's one of the most common things. It's like, well, that's not scalable. We don't worry about that. You don't have to worry about that now. Worry about that when it's not scalable. You're not
mhm,
even doing it yet. Go get out there and make some friends and make some noise and connect with people. I think if I can say anything about the quote unquote success we've had in the beginning, if somebody DM'd me, like Michael, if you DM'd me and said, hey, I just listened to episode number whatever, I loved it, I would send you my personal cell phone number and I would ask you to get on a FaceTime call because I would want to learn about you, what resonated, what didn't, what's your experience like, so I can make better content.
mhm.
Is that a waste of time? A lot of people told me it was, but I think it was one of the best uses of time I could do. So it would be that. Yeah. Go out one-on-one.
Mm,
There's not a lot of people doing that anymore,
yeah.
right? Because the internet has made things so scalable. There is an opportunity for you to be face-to-face or one-to-one, and you can impact people to a really deep degree. And then it's ultimately a conversation of breadth versus depth. So
Mhm,
how many people can I impact as breadth? To what degree can I impact them as depth? It depends on which one you want to optimize for too. That's a big piece of
mm. Very good. Every time you say something, there's like a whole bunch of questions that come in,
it.
but I'm not going to do that. So we're going to wrap up with this. What I like to ask guests on the podcast is, we go through all these questions and it's kind of particular to whatever topic. But as your last words on this podcast, not necessarily about the topic itself, but as your last words on this podcast, what is on your heart and your mind that you want to share, different from the top of the podcast, but your lasting words that you want to live on the podcast for someone?
If you are somebody right now who is out there and you're growing a ton and it doesn't feel good, doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It probably means you're doing it right. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth is scary. Growth is uncertain, but it probably will be one of the most fulfilling things you could ever possibly do. So yeah, it might be scary and you might feel like you're doing it wrong, but I would say if you recognize any level of evolution in yourself, I would keep going. Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. What's the alternative? What's the alternative? You don't want to wake up in 30 years and regret the last 30 years. You don't want to do that, right? So it would be that. A lot of what we talk about is the challenges and it is the overcoming and it is the limiting beliefs and the fears and the uncertainties, but I'm the most fulfilled I've ever been. And it's not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence. So keep growing. You will be grateful you did. And last thing, unfortunately, oftentimes when you're growing, the people around you are villainizing you. That speaks more about the people around you than it does you, because you're literally working on yourself. And I don't think there's a more noble thing a human can do than work on themselves.
Love it. Love it. Kevin, man, appreciate you being here. Long awaited, and I'm so glad that we made this conversation happen. From both you and Alan, I mean, it's a pleasure to have you both on this podcast, and hopefully we'll do something in the future. And I know we did it before, but let's do it again. How do people get in touch with you if they want to get to the next level them?
I appreciate it very much. And I mirror those words back. This has been wonderful. I You're an ally in the mission. I love what you're doing, and I appreciate your time so very much.
Thank you.
Of course. The podcast is Next Level University. We do an episode every day. So after you listen to Michael's episodes, you can come check us out. My handle on Instagram is @NeverQuitKid. That's where I'm most active. And then my email is kevin@nextleveluniverse.com. If you have questions, comments, concerns, anything I can do to add value, seriously shoot me an email. You would be mind blown how often I say it and how little people do it. You're not going to bother me. I promise. I wouldn't say it if I didn't want you to reach out. So anything I can do to add value, let me know. Just say thrive well in the subject. I'll know where you came from and we'll party.
Nice. I love it. And the question of the week that I have here for you listeners and watchers, what's one decision that you made that completely changed your life? And what decision do you, the viewer or the watcher, need to make today your next level? All right. And again, I want to say thank you to Kevin and the Next Level U group, people, team for just blessing us with your presence. And as we always say, let's make thriving our new normal. See you next week. Before you go, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Thrival journey. Every time you show up here, you're choosing growth, clarity, and the deeper work of becoming who you're meant to be in this world. And if you're ready to reconnect with what truly lights you up, I created something powerful that can help you. It's called the Empowered Path, 7 days to reclaim your purpose and passion. It's a beautifully designed, guided workbook that walks you through a week of powerful prompts, clarity building tools, and real mindset shifts. Now, you can get instant access to it today. It's a small investment for a huge return. Your energy, your clarity, your alignment. And if you want to take it deeper, check this out. I'm offering a limited number of free 30-minute purpose coaching sessions. No pressure, no pitch, just space for you to reconnect with your direction, your gifts, and what's next. So you can grab the guide and book your session at the link in the show notes. Let's not just go through the motions. Let's really walk this path on purpose. I appreciate you. And like we always say, let's make thriving our new normal. And I'll talk to you soon.